Selfish Karen ruins my birthday over some shrimp. All I wanted for my birthday was a dinner I could actually eat. Since I can't handle the texture of Western food, my options are pretty limited. I found a place I wanted to go, but my brother and his partner decided that wasn't good enough and made me change the restaurant to something I hated. Even worse, I found out that their reasons for doing so were based on a complete lie. I turned 18 in early August. For my 18th birthday, I wanted to go out and celebrate with my family by going to my favorite Chinese restaurant. I'm quite a picky eater. I'm autistic and have issues with textures, but any type of Asian food is safe for me. When it comes to more Western cuisine, I don't have a lot of options, unless I make it at home. Everything was organized and ready to go, but a week prior to my birthday, my brother's fiancée, Vicky, said that she can't go. She said she has a seafood allergy, and after contacting the restaurant, they said they can't realistically cater to her and politely advised that she doesn't eat there. Vicky and my brother suggested that we go to this Italian restaurant instead. Everyone was on board, but I hate Italian food. The textures of cheese, pasta, and just all of it is just gross to me. I got upset because it was supposed to be a dinner for my birthday, and it was like I got forgotten about. I talked to my parents, and they told me to stop complaining. Vicky can't help having an allergy. I sucked it up and went. I spent my birthday miserable and ended up just sneaking my own snacks into the restaurant. Well, last weekend I spontaneously went over to my brother's house with no warning because I had forgotten my hoodie there from a few days prior. My brother let me inside, and I saw Vicky on the couch scoffing tuna like it's nobody's business. I said, "I thought you were allergic to seafood." "What are you talking about?" she asked. So I reminded her, "My 18th birthday last month, you said we couldn't go to the Chinese restaurant because you were allergic to seafood." "Well, I'm not medically allergic," she said. "I just can't stand the smell of all those shrimps and prawns. It makes me feel nauseous." "So," I said, "you ruined my 18th birthday because you don't like how seafood smells?" Wow. I stormed out and blocked Vicky and my brother on everything. I couldn't believe this. I talked to my parents. They think I'm being dramatic and that it's just a restaurant. They told me to apologize to Vicky for speaking to her like that in her home. I was so angry, I went to go stay with my boyfriend's new family for a few days, who very kindly let me stay. My family thinks I went super overboard and are calling me a brat and entitled. I don't know how to feel. Was I the jerk? Your boyfriend's new family? What happened to his old family? That sounds like it could be a way more interesting story. In any case, the only thing that really matters here is that it was this original poster's birthday. Take all of the sensory issues out of it, and you still get to choose where you eat on your birthday. And not to be callous, but your brother's main squeeze isn't really an essential member of the party. If she can't eat there, she doesn't need to come. What's weird, though, is that none of the sensory issues in this story make a lick of sense. How is shrimp too strong for Vicky, yet she can deal with the smell of tuna? Also, since when does all Asian food have the same texture? Or all Western food, for that matter? Those are both widely diverse categories. Can OP eat fried rice, but not jambalaya? Even the bit about Italian food is odd. Not all cheeses and pastas have the same textures as each other, yet OP seems to be implying that they do. And if the general texture of noodles is an issue, then it's not true that OP can eat all Asian food. Everybody who's asked this question on Reddit has been downvoted to oblivion, yet their questions haven't actually been answered. Do you know anything about this? Feel free to share your experiences in the comments below. My sister keeps screaming at me for walking in on her and her husband. So, I'm a full-time college student. Right now I'm living with my sister Claire and her husband Thomas while I get through my current semester. I don't work, so I don't have everything I need for my daily skin and hair routine, so I borrow stuff from Claire. She didn't have an issue in the beginning, but then she started complaining about me randomly walking into her room. But I go in there looking for the stuff I asked for. She gave me a hard time just because I walked in on Thomas half undressed to get the eyeshadow I borrowed from her. And then there was that other time when I walked in late at night. She told me I needed to get her permission to enter the room before I take anything, but I figured this would make things complicated. It's enough that I have to ask to borrow an item. So last night at around 10 p.m., I went upstairs and into her bedroom to grab the hairdryer. I walked in and, whoops, I saw them in an intimate position together in bed. I had no idea they were doing it, especially since Claire told me that Thomas has been feeling sick the past 2 days. She lashed out at me, yelling for me to get out. I quickly grabbed the hairdryer, then walked out and shut the door. Minutes later, she came downstairs in her robe and went off on me, saying she was done with me repeatedly disrespecting and violating hers and her husband's privacy. I told her it was cool, no big deal, and that I needed the dryer but didn't have time to ask for permission. She got even louder, saying I had no business barging into her marital space and embarrassing her and her husband like this. I told her that I was sorry, but she really overreacted to this whole thing. This made her even angrier. She went on about how I'm living here rent-free and yet not being respectful enough. I stopped arguing and went to my room. This morning, Thomas left the house early, and Claire ignored me at breakfast. She was still upset, saying I don't get to say whether she overreacted or not, and that my behavior was inappropriate. She even wants me to apologize to her husband for making last night awkward. I can't lie, it was a pretty baller move to walk in on these two people sleeping together and still take time to grab the hairdryer. I mean, it's terrible, but a really twisted part of me has to admire the dedication. I also enjoy the sarcasm quotes around awkward, as if that's not the mildest word you could use for this type of situation. There are some commenters who had doubts about this story. Some of the language OP uses, like when she complains that knocking first would be too complicated, made them think this couldn't possibly be real. There are others who believe this happened, but that it's what they call a flip post. In other words, they believe that Claire was the one who actually posted this as a way of proving that Reddit would disagree with her sister's side of things. There's some plausibility to that, but taking this story at face value, I can't imagine anyone thinking OP was in the right about this. The fact that she's living rent-free isn't even a relevant concern. Even if they were paying equal shares, it's still respectful to knock before entering someone else's room, regardless of what you think they're doing in there. That's a pretty basic rule of etiquette, and it's crazy to think there's anyone out there who doesn't know that. If you made it this far in the video, consider liking and subscribing for more videos coming. A crazy woman is trying to trap my brother-in-law into unwanted fatherhood. I went to university and made a friend that we'll call Laura. She was from a small town and didn't have many friends, so she latched onto me pretty tightly. I do really like her, but she saw me as a best friend, and I only saw her as a close friend. Having moved back to our respective cities, we don't see much of each other anymore. I got married 6-ish weeks ago, after being with my now husband for 15 years, and I invited Laura. She ended up sleeping with my husband's brother, Liam. I admit I raised my eyebrows at this, but we're all adults, and I thought that was that. Nope. Last week, Laura called me and said she had news. She told me that she was pregnant and that it can only be Liam's baby. She asked for Liam's phone number so that she could tell him. I offered to be there for her in any way that I could, but I genuinely did not think she would keep the baby. Less than an hour later, my husband phoned me. He was at work, and I hadn't yet told him the news. He stated that Liam had called him distraught and stressed and scared. He said Liam told him Laura said she was keeping the baby and that she was willing to move to our city so that he could be closer to their child. For the past week, she's been calling me and saying that she's excited for Liam to get to know her better, that she's so happy I'm going to be an auntie to her baby, and asking me to help her look for flats near my home. I couldn't listen to her excitement whilst watching Liam's despair grow, and eventually I just stopped answering the phone. Well, 2 nights ago, she turned up at my home unannounced with an overnight bag in hand. I asked why she was here, and she said that we're family now, and that family helps family. Here's where I may be the jerk. I snapped and told her we weren't family, and that we would never be family. That her trying to force her way into the Cooper family through an unplanned one-night stand baby is not the same as marrying into it. I told her to get whatever fantasy she had conjured of Liam falling in love with her out of her head, and to accept that he does not want this baby, as it will ruin his life. She didn't say a word to me. She just turned and walked away from my front door. I've tried calling her since, but she's not answering the phone. Earlier today, I got a call from a mutual friend telling me that Laura has said she's going to book an appointment to terminate the pregnancy, as she doesn't want to be tied to such toxic people. Apparently, she texted Liam the same thing, and now my in-laws are mad that I convinced her to terminate their first grandchild. And my sister-in-law said I'm just jealous I wasn't having the first Cooper baby, which isn't true at all. So am I the jerk for getting involved in the situation? There were some strange details in this story that came out through OP's edits and comments. Apparently the reason Liam feels this baby will ruin his life is because he does theater. Helping raise the baby would mean missing out on some plays. That's certainly a disappointment, but OP goes as far as to say that it would ruin his career. Is that true? Does taking some time off work when you have a kid ruin your career in any field, let alone one where the work is often irregular to begin with? And why did everyone simply assume when Laura first got pregnant that she would terminate the pregnancy? If the woman has a choice whether to keep the baby or not, doesn't that mean keeping it is well within her rights? It kind of feels like everyone here is about half a jerk. Laura needs to learn boundaries and calm down a bit, but OP also needs to learn that people don't always choose how they enter into a family. Laura and Liam apparently used protection, and Laura was on birth control on top of that. If this is true, then it's not like she tried to trap Liam into fatherhood. She's simply coping with unexpected news. It wouldn't hurt to treat that with at least a little understanding instead of pushing her away. And if they won't consider her family, how are they going to treat Liam's child when it's born? That really needs to be the main concern here. Manager's angry with me because I don't want to get robbed. I work at a gas station from noon to 7 p.m. I have no interest in overnight because of robberies. We've been robbed 4 times in the last year, and it is always between midnight and 3 a.m. So I've told my boss that I'm not covering those hours, and I'm only available for my exact shift. I can do maybe an hour on either side, but I have no interest in staying later. The new girl they hired for the overnight shift is unreliable. She's called out sick multiple times a week, but then admitted she went drinking. It's so hard to find people for overnight that they keep her. They sometimes guilt one of the other people into staying late, but even they have started refusing. Since a few people quit, it is literally just 4 of us running the station, minus the manager. The manager is required to cover any empty shifts, but she doesn't like to. She's started asking if I want to do overnight on some days. The answer is always no. I don't care how much you're paying. Nope. Anyways, a few days later, Carol didn't show up. She didn't call me. I called the management, and they said she was sick. I asked when they were coming into cover. They said they had already started drinking, since it was technically their day off. Fine, but I was not staying. I told them I was locking the door and going home. I had plans with friends at 8 p.m. and tickets to a movie. I also had something early in the morning. The manager said she could not have the gas station closed, and I said she could come in then. I locked the doors, cashed out my till, turned off the lights, and went home. I put a note on the door saying we would be open again at 8 a.m. Someone was pulling into the gas station while I was walking to my car. They said they needed gas, and I said I couldn't help them because I was clocked out. My manager got super upset because a bunch of people called to complain. I told her again that I'm not staying late. I don't cover shifts overnight, and I had plans. Am I the jerk? Nobody's ever the jerk for going home when their shift ends, putting aside a handful of cases where they're legitimately needed and the extra time isn't that demanding. If OP had clocked out in the middle of ringing up a customer, for instance, they'd be the jerk. But not working an extra shift when the manager is technically supposed to be the one doing it, that's acceptable. I do have sympathy for the manager. It sounds like finding someone to work overnights has been really hard. If they know the girl who works overnights is unreliable, then they probably shouldn't be going out and drinking before her shift is supposed to start. I'm not saying it's fair to them that they have to limit their personal life like that, but in this case, it simply comes with the responsibility of management. If they don't want to take that extra responsibility, then the store will need to close whenever nobody's willing to cover the girl's shifts. What I definitely fault the management for is basically letting this girl feel like she can do whatever she wants without putting her job in jeopardy. Finding a replacement will be hard, but this girl needs to go. It's her fault that the store had to close, not OP's. Angry Karens don't like my Hooters outfit. So, I work at Hooters. Don't judge, I'm in grad school getting my master's. My husband and I are both 23, and so I guess I'm not your typical Hooters girl. But I love all my coworkers. We all have our own stories and situations. The money is better than you'd think, and really helps. Anyway, after I got home from work on Saturday, I walked into my husband's fantasy football draft, which was happening at our place. The guys were hammered. I was still in my work outfit, but it was all fine. A few of the guys asked to have their photo taken with me in my outfit. It was a little silly, but all in good fun, I thought. So yesterday I come to learn a couple of the wives have been talking smack. They say I'm an attention seeker, that I dressed up just for the party, etc. They clearly saw the photos and were miffed. The guys are a range of ages, early 20s to early 40s. I feel a little betrayed by the situation, and like I should have changed instead of getting caught up in the moment when I came through the door. My husband doesn't think I need to apologize, but I'm not sure about it now. Am I the jerk? I think in this case, it's really up to the OP to decide for herself. If she's not the jerk, apologizing might help keep the peace. But she also shouldn't grovel. At the end of the day, these wives are mad because the men they're married to turned into 13-year-old boys at the sight of orange shorts and a tank top. Maybe this is an unpopular opinion, but there's really nothing that special about a Hooters outfit. You'll see more revealing outfits walking down the street on a summer day. That said, Hooters doesn't actually like their employees taking pictures in their outfit outside of work, and they're actually supposed to be covered up when they leave the restaurant, which implies OP took off her cover top before walking in the house. That's kind of strange. If this information is correct, OP might be a bit of a jerk simply for breaking company policy. But a woman should never blame her husband's behavior on another woman. Your marital disputes are for you and your spouse to work out. What do you think about this story? Should OP consider apologizing even if she doesn't need to? What would you do if the shorts were on the other? Well, never mind all that. But what would you do if you were this OP? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Please leave your stories in the comments. I'd love to make a video of them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.